Hello. We were waiting for some dignitaries, and I think we are set now, so we will start the program very soon. But before we start, please let's take note of these housekeeping announcements for the sake of our guests and our level 100 students. We have washrooms to my right and to my left. The ones to my right, the door on my right leads to washrooms for ladies, and the one to my left leads to washrooms for gents. In case you are in need, please contact our ushers. Our ushers are in UG branded Lacoste, white top and black trousers, or white shirt with UG tie. You can contact any of them for help. So we now wait for our dignitaries. Thank you very much for your patience. Please note that we display the QR code for the brochure on the screens. So those of you who don't have copies of the brochure can scan and follow the program. Hello. Please let's kindly rise for the officials. Thank you very much. Please resume your seats. Good evening, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. I am happy to welcome you to the Great Hall of the University of Ghana. This university, as one of the leading academic institutions in Africa, engages in numerous collaborations with other universities, research institutions, and organizations to drive its agenda of becoming a world-class research-intensive university. Over the years, the collaborations the University of Ghana has had have been instrumental in advancing research excellence, capacity building, global visibility, technology transfer, innovation, societal impact, and cultural exchanges. I'm happy to announce this evening that the University of Ghana is privileged to receive a high-powered delegation from Cornell University in New York to deepen discussions on various areas of collaborations. As part of the visit, we are going to witness a high-level panel that dissects the topic, The Future of Collaboration, Global Higher Education and making a difference at home and in the world. As we proceed, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, please join me to welcome our Registrar, Mrs. Emilia J. Mensah, to deliver introductory remarks and to introduce the chairperson for this very august occasion. Please join me.
Thank you very much, Director of Public Affairs. Honorable Deputy Minister of Education, Vice-Chancellor and other officials of the university, our distinguished guests from Cornell University, our students, I'm glad to see so many of you here, members of the university community, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. A very warm welcome to the University of Ghana and to this evening's joint leadership discussion on the topic, the future of collaboration, global higher education, and making a difference at home and in the world. We're very happy to partner with Cornell University on this and other planned events, and indeed, a number of very fruitful discussions have already taken place, underscoring the importance of collaboration within the higher education space in ways that are beneficial for all parties. We look forward to continuing the conversations and following them up with concrete actions to solidify the collaborations that already exist while working towards discovering and forging ahead with new ones going forward. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, it is my privilege to introduce the chairperson for this evening's event. Our chairperson is the first female Vice-Chancellor of the University of Ghana. She's a professor of linguistics and an experienced administrator with over 20 years' experience working in the higher education sector. She's a member of many prestigious societies and organizations and is a fellow of the Ghana Academy of Arts and Sciences. She's the founding president of the African Humanities Association. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me to welcome Professor Appiah Amfo, Vice-Chancellor of the University of Ghana and Chairperson for this evening's program. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Registrar. The Honorable Deputy Minister of Education, who is representing the President of the Republic this afternoon, members of the Diplomatic Corps, the Acting Deputy Chief of Mission at the U.S. Embassy, and the Mission Director of USAID, our special guests from Cornell University, we have the Provost, the Vice Provost of International Affairs, the Director of the Einaudi Center for International Affairs, Director of the Center for Reproductive Genomics, Director of the Institute for African Development, and other members of the delegation, senior officers of the University of Ghana, our Pro-Vice-Chancellors, Madam Registrar, Provost, Deans, Directors and Heads of Department, faculty, staff, and students. Yes, and I'm glad to see so many of you here. Representatives from the public and private sectors, the media, specially invited guests, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon to you all. It is an honor for me to benefit. Through the Global Hub Partnership, for instance, Cornell University is able to support faculty collaborations, student exchanges, alumni engagements, and sustained impactful interactions with policymakers, non-governmental organizations, private sector actors, and local communities. The West Africa Center for Crop Improvement, WACI, one of the World Bank Centers of Excellence hosted by the University of Ghana, has since 2007 collaborated closely with Cornell University on research and studies in the area of plant breeding and genetics. As part of a working visit by the delegation of Cornell University, we are excited to host this all-important forum to explore a very critical topic on the future of collaboration, global higher education, and making a difference at home and in the world. Ladies and gentlemen, it is evident that as a result of globalization, organizations, irrespective of geographical location, are able to forge stronger ties to accelerate their common interests. Similarly, institutions of higher learning are able to leverage on their unique expertise through collaborations to respond to global challenges. Academic linkages and strategic alliances are therefore central to attaining the core mandate of institutions of higher learning. Such academic partnerships enable researchers to harness unique strengths and competencies to conduct multidisciplinary research, position and propels institutions to attract significant funding from donor agencies and states, provide an excellent opportunity for cross-cultural learning, offer a range of opportunities for faculty development through fellowships, and facilitate access to a pool of resources, networks, and support systems. The University of Ghana is therefore excited about the upscaling of collaboration with Cornell University, not only because of the direct mutual benefits, but also because of incidental opportunities which arise from such exchanges. In pursuit of University of Ghana's research-intensive agenda, which aligns with my aspiration as Vice-Chancellor to create a culture that promotes research, teaching and learning, administrative processes and extension activities driven by technology and anchored in humanism, we consider this forum opportune to critically consider the future of collaborations in higher education with a view of making a resounding difference. As a university poised to distinguish itself through cutting-edge research, our internationalization strategy is expected to provide a roadmap that standardizes the university's approach in courting international collaborators, as well as diversify our stakeholder base while providing an enabling environment that attracts and retains highly reputable international collaborators to enhance our joint research opportunities. With Cornell University's enviable position as an Ivy League university and a globally renowned research university known for academic excellence, and University of Ghana's aspiration to be a research-intensive university, we certainly have common interests. Effective global collaboration therefore enables pooling of resources, knowledge, and expertise to amplify the impact of our individual institutions. Through this forum, both institutions will share experiences of research collaborations, reflect on our challenges, and present strategies and approaches that will best optimize collaborative efforts. As we deliberate, we should also reflect on what can be done differently and what it would take to implement these ideas to ensure that ultimately we are impactful both home and abroad. I look forward to stimulating thoughts emanating from the presentations to be delivered by the carefully selected speakers and the ensuing discussions with panel members of diverse backgrounds, which hopefully will bring to bear the different perspectives on the selected topics of climate change and adaptation and public health and policy. We are happy to host you on this visit, and we look forward to jointly charting transformative collaborations through the strategic partnership between University of Ghana and Cornell University. I warmly welcome you all once again to the University of Ghana and enjoy the rest of the proceedings. I thank you for your attention.
Thanks very much for your warm welcome as well. We are very grateful to you, Madam Vice-Chancellor and Chairperson. It's now time to take a presentation by the Provost of Cornell University, and it's my duty to introduce him. Professor Michael Kotlikoff, Professor of Molecular Physiology, became the 16th Provost of Cornell on August 1st, 2015. As the university's Chief Academic Officer, Chief Budgeting Officer, and First Deputy Officer to the President, he works to enhance the university's excellence in teaching, scholarship, and outreach. Prof. Kotlikoff was recruited to Cornell in 2000 as the founding chair of the Department of Biomedical Sciences and chair of the Mammalian Genomics Life Science Initiative. Prior to being selected as provost, Prof. Kotlikoff served as the Austin O. Dean of the Cornell College of Veterinary Medicine. His laboratory and internationally recognized in cell signaling and heart repair was continuously funded by the National Institutes of Health for over 35 years, including his tenure as Dean and Provost. He currently serves on the NIH Council of Councils. The Kotlikoff Laboratory focuses on the molecular processes underlying cardiovascular development, function, and dysfunction. As Dean from 2007 to 2015, Prof. Kotlikoff initiated a comprehensive strategy plan to enhance the College of Veterinary Medicine's programs in education, delivery of animal health care, and research, and he launched an $87 million capital project to upgrade infrastructure and teaching facilities and enable an increase in the preclinical class size. Throughout his tenure, he oversaw an increase in diversity of the faculty, staff, and college administration, the expansion of clinical training opportunities for veterinary students, and a recognition of the Cornell University Hospital for Animals. He also focused on expanding basic and clinical research programs and promoting translational linkages and interdisciplinary research. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, the Provost of Cornell University, Prof. Kotlikoff, please let's welcome him to the podium.
Thank you so much. Good evening, everyone. Good evening, Deputy Minister of Education, Vice-Chancellor, Amfo, Minister of Health, Provosts, Deans, Directors, Chairs, and mostly students of the University of Ghana, as well as Cornell faculty and Cornell alumni. Thank you so much for inviting us here. I must say that was the most exciting introduction to an academic seminar I've ever seen. And as our first action of collaboration, I think we should bring those dancers and drummers back to Cornell. To the leadership of this great university, thank you for hosting us here on your beautiful campus. My colleagues, Wendy, Rachel, Carolyn, Paula, Alec, Rachel, Nancy, and I are so very pleased to be visiting the University of Ghana, well known as one of the premier universities in the world and a valuable partner to Cornell, particularly in the last few years, as it has become one of our most important strategic partners. And we refer to the University of Ghana as one of our core global hubs, which designates this university for us as a key strategic partner. As partners, we hope that our collaborations are based on mutual value, mutual respect, exchange, and innovation. And we look forward to building on all of these as we go forward. We believe that global education is at a crossroads. Higher education has been a one-way flow for much of the past century, with the best and brightest of students leaving countries in Africa, Asia, and Latin America, and attending schools in the United States and Europe, and remaining in those countries. Research that was developed tended to focus on pedagogies and issues that were relevant in the US and in Europe. This is no longer the trend. In the last 2 decades, peer universities around the world have established wide influence, developing areas of expertise and innovation relevant to home countries. The depth of the talent across the globe, and here at the University of Ghana, combined with the magnitude of the problems that face the planet and humanity, suggests that we need a bi-directional flow. We need to work together to solve local problems before they become global problems. Critical to the success of these projects is in-country investment by our governments and NGOs. We also prize the Ghanaian students we have at Cornell. We are thrilled to have a strong and growing student population from Ghana at Cornell. Cornell's population of students from Ghana has doubled in the last 10 years, and we hope to see it grow further. With our Global Hub partnership, we look forward to more exchange of students between our universities, building on the best of both of our institutions. But our overarching goal should be ensuring that the best and brightest students are able to thrive and innovate in Ghana, in country. The partnership between Cornell and the University of Ghana has deep roots, as most of you know. Cornell's strength in sustainable agriculture and One Health has resulted in Cornell faculty collaborating for decades with local institutions, farmers, companies, and researchers across Africa, with a focus on plant breeding, soil health, livestock health, and breeding and habitat conservation. Cornell is unique in this way amongst our Ivy League and Ivy Plus peers. We are extremely proud of Cornell's connection to the West Africa Center for Crop Improvement, WACI, which was born out of a partnership established in 2007 with the goal of improving training of plant breeders and focusing on African crops. As WACI administrators, PhD and MPhil programs, as well as short courses and extension activities with participants from all over sub-Saharan Africa, it has brought over $30 million in research and development funding. WACI is, of course, led by your Professor Eric Dankwa, who has received multiple prestigious awards, including the 2022 Africa Food Prize and 2018 World Agricultural Prize. And we are so proud of his connection to Cornell as a visiting faculty member. More recently, I've been pleased by the many student engagements we have. We teach 5 African languages at Cornell, and many of our students live and work in Africa to improve their language skills. We have a successful multidisciplinary summer program at the University of Ghana. This is a 3-week summer course that focuses on African development at the interface between the UN 17 Sustainability Development Goals and the African Union agenda for 2063. A group of our Kessler Scholars, bright young undergraduate scholars who are all first-generation students at Cornell, eagerly travel abroad and will be visiting the university over this coming spring break. These students are often supported by our Institute for African Development at the Einaudi Center for International and Area Studies. This institute collaborates with scholars and practitioners across Africa on research, teaching, and practical engagement. One example, based in our College of Computer and Information Sciences, is Code Afrique, which was started by two Cornell faculty and is based in Ghana. The goal of Cornell Afrique is to introduce local students to computer science in the hopes that they might see themselves as future computer scientists. And there are many, many other connections to build on between Cornell and the University of Ghana. And we hope that our wonderful alumni from Ghana will be a bridge between our two universities. We are very pleased to see so many of you here tonight. These alumni with leadership roles in public health, education, and agriculture, and more, are so important to the country and to Cornell, and I look forward to hearing from some of them on thematic panels tomorrow. I would also like to acknowledge and celebrate the formal organization of the Cornell Alumni Club in Ghana. The club is the result of dedicated work by alumni and recognizes the sustained connection to both Cornell and to Ghana. So the panels tomorrow will focus on themes of sustainability, climate change, and health. And there is a lot of work to do together in all of these areas and more. Let me tell you about some of the work we've been doing in these areas alongside our colleagues in these areas to capture and deepen the spirit of innovation and excellence. In 2010, Cornell invested in what we call radical collaborations, where we are bringing together disciplines and researchers that might not have met 20 years ago, but that need to work together today in order to achieve a more sustainable and flourishing future and meet the problems which are essentially multidisciplinary problems of the future. One of these initiatives is digital agriculture, which brings together faculty in agriculture with faculty in engineering and computer sciences, particularly robotics, to address some of the needs to produce efficient, sustainable agriculture. Through these initiatives and others, we hope to harness the power of multidisciplinarity to address some of the world's most pressing problems. So let me end here and thank you again. We're absolutely delighted with the strength of our partnership, the history of that partnership, and we will work together to grow those collaborations in the future. I look forward to the rest of the evening and the festivities and the panel discussions. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Provost of Cornell University. We are very grateful for your presentation. I would like to announce that we are live on all the university's social media handles, as well as our radio station, Radio Universe 105.7. You heard Madam Vice-Chancellor announce that the President sent a representative. On our flyers, you see that the President of the Republic of Ghana is our guest of honor. He had to attend to a very urgent call, and so he has sent a representative. And to introduce the representative for us, I'm privileged to invite the Dean of International Programs, Professor Eric Osei-Sibe. Please let's welcome Prof. Osei-Sibe.
Madam Chairperson, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, it is an honor and a privilege to introduce to you the keynote speaker who is representing our President of Republic of Ghana. Honorable John Intim Fojo, the Honorable Deputy Minister for Education of the Republic of Ghana and the second-term Member of Parliament for Ascent South constituency, has a multifaceted academic background in mineral engineering, economic policy management, and foreign policy. He has creditably acquitted himself as a legislator with a prior record of sterling mining career and entrepreneurship. He graduated with a bachelor's degree in mineral engineering at age 21 at UMatt. Shortly after national service, Reverend Fojo began his mining career as a senior training officer in charge of learning and development administration at Goldfields Ghana Limited, Dankwa Mine. Reverend Fojo rose quickly to the role of human resource superintendent of the biggest surface mining in West Africa at age 24, where he creditably managed the HR function for a mine of 4,500 employees and contractors. Among his achievements in this role is his leadership in delivering the Owner Maintenance Project, OMP. Reverend Intim Fojo has a Master of Arts degree, MA in Economic Policy Management from the University of Ghana, Legon, and postgraduate certificate in Governance and Anti-Corruption Methods from Georgetown University, Washington, D.C. He's currently completing his PhD in Political Science at the same university, University of Ghana, Legon, with a research specialization in Ghana's foreign policy decisions at the United Nations. In the 8th Parliament, Reverend Intim Fojo serves as the Appointment and Foreign Affairs Committee. In the 7th Parliament, he was chairman of the Ghana-Canada Parliamentary Friendship Association. He served as the vice chairman of Parliament's Standing Committee on Members Holding Offices of Profit and a member of Foreign Affairs Committee. Reverend Intim Fojo is a minister of the gospel and serves as a senior pastor of VBCI Higher Heights Sanctuary, East Legon. He is married to the beautiful Tracy and blessed with 3 kids. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, the keynote speaker, Honorable Reverend Fojo.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Professor Eric, for the very generous introduction. And for those of you who think Professor Eric is so young, he taught me economics at APM during my master's stay here in the best university in Ghana and arguably in Africa, University of Ghana. Chairperson, my dear sister, Professor Nanaba Appiah Amfo, the Vice-Chancellor of the Premier University of Ghana, University of Ghana, the Provost of Cornell University, Professor Michael Kotlikoff, the Vice-Chancellor, University of Ghana, Provost, Deans, the Vice Provost of Cornell University, and the faculty from Cornell University, our friends from Cornell University, distinguished and renowned academics, students, alumni, ladies and gentlemen, it gives me great pleasure to be here and bring you the warm compliment of His Excellency, the President of the Republic, Dankwa Akufo-Addo, who would have loved to be here, but for an emergency cabinet that is currently underway, is unable to do so, and has asked that I bring you his warm regards. I also do bring you the compliments of the Minister for Education, Dr. Oseduchum, who is an ardent friend of this university. I'm equally excited and honored to be at this forum an important forum where two giants collaborate together around round table to discuss the future of collaborations, focused on impacting and fostering changes both at home and globally. Education is very powerful as a tool that can be used to turn around the fortunes of countries. And as Nelson Mandela said, education is the most powerful weapon one can use to change the world. But it becomes even more impactful when significant collaborations are formed around education, particularly involving the best university in Ghana and the best university in the United States of America. You may disagree, but I have my firm conviction. When the two giants, the best of each place is Cornell University, highly reputed university, collaborating with the premier university in Ghana, we can only expect groundbreaking outcomes in research. We can only expect solutions and innovations that will propel the socio-economic development of Ghana, United States, and other parts of the world. Ladies and gentlemen, that has been the evidence of the achievement of this collaboration in the past years. And this collaboration has consistently, over the years, produced some of the most groundbreaking researches that are focused on important areas of agriculture, of health, and most importantly, having culminated in an institution of WACI and WACBIB and all great researchers that have come out of this. But even more exciting is the impact that we have seen out of this collaboration in society and the collaborations that have provided opportunity for the best of brains, the best of minds, the best of faculties between these two universities coming together and fostering joint researches and the engagements between student and student exchanges and the great opportunities that this decade has afforded the two countries. In no small way, this collaboration has further deepened the friendship between Ghana and the United States and has reiterated the point that there couldn't be a more impactful way for countries to collaborate, particularly around education. In our fourth industrial revolution, it is expected that countries rise up and embrace technology to solve some of the smallest to the most complex challenges that we find in society and across the globe. That has been the preoccupation of this government, particularly as the Ministry of Education is leading the charge. As University of Ghana, our premier university and one of the leading universities under the Ministry of Education, we congratulate you, much as we congratulate Cornell University for sustaining this important collaboration and ensuring that over the years, some very fantastic results have been yielded. Ladies and gentlemen, for all the sterling outcomes that we have seen out of this collaboration, notwithstanding the impact that we have seen in health, people that have been deployed to the fields, going to various farms and researching on how we can increase outputs, and the researches around infectious pathogens, and all that notwithstanding, we have come at a point where we need to deepen this collaboration, where we have to leverage on the resourcefulness of each institution and to propel this partnership onto the next level. I look forward, on behalf of the President, to the next 10 years being another opportunity where both universities will accept the challenge of taking this collaboration to a more impactful heights and even impacting many more people and many more communities. We look forward to even deepening the funding availability, and I'm excited about the focus of sustainability and climate change that has come to add to the agri focus, technology and health that have been driving this partnership over the years. Yes, to our students, I know many of you came here because you're expecting Mr. President, but Mr. President would have you to know that all these investments are there for students to take full advantage of. Let us avail ourselves to even venture in researches that many have not thought about and ensure that we solve some of the problems that face us today, because lying in those problems are the solutions that will propel this country onto a sustainable path of economic transformation. So this evening, I look forward to very insightful discussions. I look forward to enjoying the panel discussion of seasoned panelists and academics, and I look forward to this partnership going to the next level and breaking grounds and bringing much more impactful changes both in the United States of America, in Ghana, and even beyond these two countries to affect other parts of the world. I thank you very much. God bless you.
Thanks very much, Reverend Fojo, for ably representing our president. We are very grateful to you. Madam Chairperson, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, it's time to relax and take another performance from the Ghana Dance Ensemble. I believe you enjoyed their preliminary performance. We now invite the Ghana Dance Ensemble to give us another musical interlude. That was the Ghana Dance Ensemble performing the Bamaya dance. According to the Ghana Dance Ensemble, the Bamaya dance is a classic and highly energetic dance from Dagon in the northern region of Ghana. You could see from the movements. It is a dance performed during a period of drought and famine to introduce rain. It is no wonder that prior to this performance or this program, we had a very heavy rain. This dance is performed mostly by men and is selected for this occasion to welcome our special guests and to show our Ghanaian hospitality and cultural diversity. We thank the Ghana Dance Ensemble. Let's please show another round of applause. Madam Chairperson, ladies and gentlemen, we are now at the climax of this program. It's time for the panel discussion, and it is my duty to introduce the moderator who will in turn introduce the panelists to take over proceedings after them. Our moderator, Professor Wendy Walford, is Robert A. and Ruth E. Paulson Professor of Global Development in the Department of Global Development. Her research includes work on international development, land use and distribution, social mobilization, agrarian societies, and critical ethnography. As Vice Provost of International Affairs at Cornell University, she focuses on strengthening the university's many global connections and interdisciplinary initiatives. At Cornell since 2010, Prof. Walford has served as a faculty director for economic development at the David R. Atkinson Center, where she co-led CARE Cornell and Oxfam Cornell collaborations. She was co-leader of a 3-year theme project on contested global landscapes at Cornell's Institute for Social Sciences. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, this is Prof. Walford in brief. I invite her to the podium to introduce the panelists and to take over proceedings. Thank you very much.
Good afternoon. That's a difficult performance to follow. Madam Vice-Chancellor, Honorable Reverend Deputy Minister, distinguished leadership, faculty, students, and friends, alumni of Cornell, good afternoon. It's such a pleasure to be here on this remarkable campus and to have a visit this afternoon with colleagues, with faculty in institutions and departments that reflect the potential for collaboration, the depth of the partnership to this point, and also the way in which we bring complementary strengths to begin to think about collaboration, taking collaboration further. I think we're at a really pivotal moment. There are unprecedented, perhaps, challenges and opportunities for global collaboration. We can all probably recite the challenges, unfortunately. We know them by name now, from a global pandemic to thinking about inequality across nations, climate change, environmental degradation, questions of the youth. What's going to happen? How will the youth be employed? What will our future look like for communities, for countries, for continents? We know all of these challenges by heart. People sometimes refer to them as the crisis cliff, where multiple challenges come together. And what we don't recognize often enough is that this is also a moment of real opportunity. And to me, one of the biggest opportunities is the potential for university-to-university collaboration to think across the globe with partners about how we might address some of these challenges, how we might work together on education, on research, on real engagement with communities, where we're not just delivering solutions that are pre-made in a university office or laboratory, but we're working hand in hand with community members to try to understand how they are experiencing those challenges I mentioned that we can all name, how they're living these day to day, and what we can do together to try to provide real solutions. It begins with understanding, and I think there's so much potential in global collaboration. We're particularly thrilled to be collaborating with the University of Ghana. This is a collaboration that, as many people have said, goes back many years, decades even, but we see, even at this moment of challenge, real potential, real synergy in the way we think about research and teaching. What we see now is that there are peer institutions, as Provost Kotlikoff said, that are strong in their areas, strong in their countries, connected to the priorities in their particular communities, but able to see path forward for some kind of coordination, so that we'll stay connected to our local communities, but be thinking together about possible ways of addressing issues and challenges that are global in nature, even if they play out in very different ways in the local context. That's the topic of our panel tonight. I think it's a fantastic panel. I'm looking forward to hearing the answers to the questions. Some of the questions we've written out ahead of time, and they're not easy questions. And after we have a time for questions, we'll open it up for Q&A from the floor, and I hope you will also contribute your thoughts and your questions to the panel. So with that, I would like to call the panelists up to the stage. And as you're coming up, please join me on the stage. So as you're coming up to the stage, I will briefly introduce you, and I'll introduce all three panelists very briefly in the interest of time. I could go on and on about each one, but I'll introduce each one briefly and then ask them to come to the stage, come up here to the podium one by one and deliver introductory remarks before we get into the question and answer period. So first, I'll introduce Professor Gordon Awandare, who is the Pro-Vice-Chancellor of Academic and Student Affairs at the University of Ghana. And so you all probably know him well. The Pro-Vice-Chancellor's research focuses on pathogenesis of Plasmodium falciparum malaria, and particularly in children. He is the founding director of the West African Center for Cell Biology of Infectious Pathogens and has a long and distinguished career. And next, to his left, we have Emily Fertik, who is the acting Deputy Chief of Mission for the U.S. Embassy in Ghana. Emily Fertik joined the Department of State in the United States in 2006, and since then she has worked in foreign affairs in multiple countries, including Kenya, the Democratic Republic of the Congo, Canada, and Mexico. So she brings international experience and expertise to this panel. Our third speaker is Rachel Beatty Riedl. She's the Professor of Government and the John Knight Director of the Mario Einaudi Center for International Studies at Cornell University. Rachel Riedl's research is on democratic resilience, religion and politics, and she has long had a regional focus in Africa and has worked in Ghana for almost 20 years. So I thank our panelists very much for agreeing to be on this panel and for having a, hopefully, very lively discussion on these questions tonight.
Good afternoon to you all. Can you hear me? Hello? Okay. Hello? Good afternoon to you all. Whilst they try to fix the microphones for the panel, I thought that I could just make a few remarks from the podium. I believe the stage has been well set for this conversation, and we all recognize that the landscape for global higher education, including teaching and research, has changed quite significantly since we were students. And I think those changes have presented challenges, but I would like to agree with Wendy that they've also opened up many opportunities for us to add more value to international collaborations. One of the most significant things that have happened is that all problems or all challenges are now global challenges. Because we are such an interconnected world, challenges that we face in Ghana are challenges that are common to many, not only African countries, but many countries across the world. And equally, challenges that are emerging in the more advanced countries also indirectly or directly affect us because we are so connected in the, in the way that we work as academics. So I believe that the future of higher education collaboration is in reorienting our context from one of collaborating based on differences in capacity to seeing it more as collaborating based on our collective strength and our complementary experiences and our different contexts. I believe that in every collaboration, each partner should bring value to the table. If it is unidirectional, then it's not a collaboration, it's a dependency. So I believe that in each of the collaborations we have, especially the North-South collaborations, which are the majority of collaborations that we have, although we would hope to have more South-South collaborations, most of the collaborations we have are North-South collaborations. And these collaborations should be enriched by the value that each of us bring to the table. As academics, we come from different experiences and different contexts, and that is what enriches our collaboration with partners from different parts of the world. It used to be that we in the sciences, we wanted to collaborate because we needed to have access to advanced equipment, or we wanted to go to labs that had certain facilities that we didn't have here. Well, now that is not so important anymore because even if you don't have the facilities, you can now easily ship your samples and they will be analyzed and sent to you. Everything has been outsourced to more efficient and cheaper core facilities across the world. And so collaboration cannot simply just be that I need to go and have access to a genome sequencing machine or an advanced computing facility, because all those things can now be done without actually moving or interacting. So that calls us to reimagine the way we collaborate. And I believe that that actually opens the door for more quality interactions, because it's now about ideas and sharing experiences and shaping projects that are based on our different perspectives and talents. And I believe that if we approach collaboration in this manner, I think the value would even be better than it used to be when it was more of collaborating in order to benefit from facilities or access to funds that we may not have. And I believe that funders have also taken note of this evolution. And we those who are in the habit of applying for grants, most funding agencies now request for certain collaborative ingredients in every application that is submitted. And it is a recognition of the need to have these different experiences and different contexts put together to develop a research proposal. So I would stop there for now, and then I'll let others also give their opening remarks. Thank you.
Good afternoon. What a wonderful crowd. I am the odd person out up on this stage and probably in this entire room, because I am not an academic, I am not a scientist, I am not a researcher. I am, what many in my country run from, a member of government. Not a politician, but of the bureaucracy, the dreaded bureaucracy. So why am I here? Why has the U.S. Embassy been invited to join this? Some would say the role of government when it comes to international partnerships between institutions of higher learning is to get out of the way. And I would say we do need to get out of the way when we get to the point, such as we see between the University of Ghana and Cornell University. That is a thriving, private-led partnership that we, the United States government, and I would wager the Ghanaian government, can learn from. You will teach us what are ways that we can collaborate and solve these international problems, these global challenges, in ways that we will not have thought of. Partly because your partnerships are partnerships that bridge the gap between what we in government speak would call established opinion leaders, the government leaders, the provosts, I'm sorry to say, the chancellors, those that have been around for some time doing this work. But you bring in not just the faculty who are at all stages of their careers, but the students. And so to the students in this hall, you are, I would wager, and I would argue, the lifeblood of what a partnership and what a collaboration means. Because you bring the new idea, you bring the energy, and you bring the future to make sure that it continues. And that is what the rest of us can learn from. So having said that, I am going to give a few talking points on a few issues so you understand how we as the United States government, and particularly the United States government here in Ghana, through the U.S. Embassy, what we do and what role we can play before we get out of the way when success happens. So, the United States government understands well that by investing in partnerships between U.S. and Ghanaian universities, that we help facilitate joint research, expand institutional capacity, and encourage innovation. Through these partnerships, we see what you've already heard so much of: increased access to training, to knowledge exchange, and please, I urge everybody in this room to remember, knowledge exchange goes in both directions. Everybody is there to teach, and everybody is there to learn from those that are sitting in the room with them. And we have subject matter experts on both sides of the aisle through any partnership. We help facilitate reciprocal visits, seminars, mentoring, shared in-person or virtual exchanges. But international collaborations also create opportunities for public-private partnerships, with an emphasis on commercialization, on technology transfer, and on job creation. Because at the end of it, most of you are going to be looking for a job. And so we also believe that these partnerships expand and influence your lives and the economies in every country far beyond the graduation date. So we celebrate that the institutions in Ghana and the United States are in fact the ones taking the lead, developing these creative approaches to educational challenges through these partnerships, and exploring things such as joint certificate programs, degree programs, and initiating their own private exchange programs. The number of Ghanaian students studying in the United States rose by a whopping 32% last year. 32% more Ghanaian students studied both undergraduate and graduate programs in the United States. We think that is an extraordinary level of interest. Ghana is number 2 in Africa, second only to Nigeria. And Ghana, think of the population of Ghana compared to all the other countries in the world. Ghana ranks number 23 in the world in sending students to the United States. And Ghana ranks number 14 in the world in sending graduate students to the United States. That is extraordinary, and we are thrilled that that level of interest, cooperation, and the belief that Ghanaians will benefit from going and studying in the United States is a homegrown belief, a desire, and we are thrilled to be able to help facilitate that. But when it works best is when you come back to Ghana. We want you, we love you, we welcome you throughout the United States, all 50 states. And then please come back and lead your countries. Lead your countries in your fields, in science, in government, in research, in business, in civil society. Come back and do what you need to do to make your dreams come true here in Ghana. So with that, I am thrilled to participate in this panel, and I look forward to the conversation. Thank you.
Thank you so much for this warm welcome and for being here today to take part in this conversation. So I want to be the final speaker in this opening set of comments by suggesting that higher education collaborations are not just a nice to have, but absolutely necessary for addressing global challenges in our future and today. And that is for 3 reasons in particular. The first is because, as we've heard from multiple speakers, global challenges do require global solutions. And also, they require locally sourced solutions, local knowledge in collaboration with global knowledge, expertise, perspectives, relevant technologies and practices, cultural awareness and embeddedness drives research questions, it drives our analysis, it drives the possibility of collaboration. So global collaboration is rooted in local expertise and bringing together those synergies to allow for the global challenges to turn to solutions and opportunities. The second reason that we require global collaboration is because it offers us an opportunity to imagine together a new future. Vice Provost Wendy Wilford in her office has put together a global grand challenge for Cornell University around imagining the future, being able to set forth a new vision of what the future entails and what it needs. And I would suggest that we can only have the future that we want if we can actually imagine it first. We can only build what we can dream of. And together, we can imagine more and better. Because one person alone, our imaginations are bounded by the limits of our own experience, our own perspectives, our own life stories. And yet together, we're able to bring together a co-imagining, a co-design, and then finally, a co-implementation of that project of the future. And so it really begins with a creative imagination that is more than the sum of the parts. Thirdly, global collaboration is absolutely essential because it makes our friends your friends, and your friends become our friends. And in this multinational, transnational world, with links that bring us together and could potentially separate us and divide us, that kind of leading partnership allows us to expand our circle of impact. It allows us to have return on investment of education, of research, into a much broader net of our global publics. We're able to bring together government partnerships. We're able to bring and build upon community partnerships. We're able to work with our other university partners around the world to make transnational possibility of cooperation. And that allows so much greater of impact of our research expertise and our educational mission to work together towards a better future. Thank you.
Thank you very much to all three of you for your opening comments. Those were excellent. I think it's clear that at least the four of us on the stage here think that global partnerships are a good idea. You could say that we selected you for that. But it's clear that partnerships are productive, they can work well. They're also often very challenging. It can be difficult to bring together partners across long distances, across global inequalities, sometimes different national priorities, and those national priorities shape the kind of research direction in a particular university, maybe in different directions. There can also be real differences of logistics. It can be difficult to travel, permission to travel, etc. So I'd like to ask you to expand on your opening comments and talk about the ways in which we can foster and facilitate good, meaningful, and sustainable partnerships on the ground. What are some things that you have seen work, or maybe not work? What have you experienced that you would say these are good posts for moving solid partnerships forward?
Okay, thank you. I hope this works now. Good. So, from my experience, a number of things, are important in shaping how partnerships work. First is that at the institutional level, I believe that the most sustainable partnerships are those that are built from bottom up rather than from top down. So Cornell is here, we're having these meetings, which is great. But I think we got to this point because there were individual collaborations from the grassroots level, from the department level. Prof. Dankwa has been working with Cornell for 15 years. Established a center with support from Cornell. I have had, partnerships with Keck, like I mentioned in Cornell, who used to work with us in, running workshops, and who worked with us to establish WACBIP as a center of excellence. Noguchi, there are, people who work with Noguchi, who work with African studies. And so on and so forth. It is the combined effect of these interactions that have been recognized at the institutional level and crystallized in this engagement we're having. If you do it the other way, it works sometimes, but it doesn't always work, because at the end of the day, the doers have to connect, have to find value in each other, have to trust each other. Okay, and so I think that at the institutional level, we need to encourage more engagement at the lower level. And what happens at the institutional level is only to formalize and promote and facilitate what happens at the grassroots level. That's the first thing. Between academics, there needs to be clarity of contributions and expectations. If a collaboration is built on dependency, like I mentioned, it doesn't always work. It's not sustainable. In the conception of the idea, in the design of projects, in the design of programs, there has to be full acceptance of each person's ideas and perspective in shaping what program or what research project is being designed. These are important ingredients. There has to be equity in the way the project is designed, the program is designed, and it has to be based on each person's strength and expertise. All right. I have had many successful collaborations with institutions across the world, but I've also had a few bad ones. And in fact, all the bad ones I've had is as a result of a lack of understanding of each person's role and capability. I'll give you one example. We had a project with an institution, which I wouldn't name, and my collaborator at the other end, in that particular project, they approached me when they needed an African partner to be on the project for the funding to be, for us to qualify for the funding, or for them to qualify for the funding. And because they were introduced by people I trust, I went ahead and supported the application, even though I didn't do much in terms of shaping the proposal, except just adding a few things about research in Ghana that would shape the proposal. Now, fast forward, during the implementation of the proposal, there was supposed to be a budget that would come to Ghana. Some part of the work was supposed to be implemented in Ghana. This collaborator decides that it's too risky to send money to Ghana, so they'll pay for everything from there. Okay? So they do an MOU or a collaborative agreement, and in the collaborative agreement, the value of the partnership or the sub-award to the University of Ghana is 1,000 US dollars or pounds or whatever. I don't want to mention the currency. So. But when I saw that, I told the partner that this is not what was in the agreement or in the grant that we proposed. If you did not trust us enough, you shouldn't be working with us. If you do not think that we can, receive funds and spend it and account for it, you should not be working with us. And we would not engage in any agreement that puts a token amount in the agreement, just so that you can satisfy the funders that you have an agreement with the University of Ghana, and then you can keep all the resources and basically determine how the resources are spent. So from then on, I said I would not participate in the project any longer until what is in the proposal is properly implemented in the sub-award. Needless to say, that was the end of the collaboration, despite several efforts that they tried, offering that my students should come there for 6 months and 1 year. I said I didn't need those incentives. What I needed was respect and dignity and mutual understanding of what we each bring to the table, So anyway, I don't want to keep going, but these are some of the ingredients for a successful collaboration. Thank you.
Great. Yes, perfect. So I just want to take on where you've left off. I completely agree, as you mentioned, the point about trust and what it really requires, I think, to build trust is a long-term relationship, knowing each other, understanding each other's strengths and synergies, and as you mentioned, being able to co-design. Implementation comes at the later stage, but co-design is absolutely critical to be able to overcome some of the challenges that Wendy mentioned. And I think what allows that long-term relationship to be nimble, to be flexible, to be bottom up, is based on two kind of fundamental agreements. One is that you have the ability to have infrastructural, institutional support. So yes, relations are personal, and so I find a particular collaborator that I have a great relationship with and can do exciting research with. It helps both of us when the universities themselves have in place an overarching MOU, have in place policies that allow co-teaching, that allow the transfer of funds, that facilitate the research and teaching goals. And so that infrastructural institutional base is really important to overcome some of the obstacles to international collaboration, because it allows us to focus on the science, to focus on the education, and to use our time in our kind of highest and best use, effectively, efficiently. And that foundation, I think, builds trust over time as well, because it facilitates good work. And I think the second point is about sustainability of the relationship, built on mutual reciprocity. And that sustainability allows us to overcome the vagaries of funding cycles. As we know, funding cycles sometimes skip a year. They might change focus from Ukraine and wheat production to the next crisis and the next response. And so long-term sustainable partnerships allow us to take advantage of opportunities that might fit our skill set and complementary research agendas, but they also allow us to smooth over times of scarcity, or when things don't necessarily fit our complementarities, to be able to build for the future and have a longer term agenda. So both that institutionalized structural support as well as the long-term enduring relationships allow us to know each other better, to be able to co-imagine, co-design, and then co-implement in ways that are efficient, and take advantage of opportunities that exist out there amongst external funders, and then to reach more deeply into our communities. The community engagement also requires trust. We can't go into communities and with silver bullet technologies and say, I have the right solution for you. Those relationships are also built over the long term and require care and commitment and mutual reciprocity. And so those are the ways, I think, in which we can overcome some of the challenges that international collaboration offers, both opportunity but an extra step to really get the highest and best use of our time.
And I'll approach it from a slightly different angle. I mentioned in my opening remarks that many people say that the government should get out of the way. The time that everybody wants government to get involved is when they come knocking on our door saying, we have a problem, and could you please solve it? And so I'll give you some examples, which you will hear mirrored in the examples that we just heard, of the types of issues that we see when both Ghanaian institutions and US institutions pick up the phone, write an email, knock on our door, and say, can you help? What we see is often that lack of understanding from the first place in terms of what are the primary objectives of each institution. Was there a true understanding in the early meetings as to what each institution was asking of the other institution, of asking of the other individuals, and what was each trying to get out of it for themselves? Make sure that conversation has been had fully and frankly very, very early on. The next one is, as you've already heard, funding. Funding is, of course, a critically important part of collaborations. Where is that money coming from, and where will it continue to come from? As you just heard, funding cycles can skip a year. Governments have been known to shift a priority or two. So go back to, I would reiterate the issue of sustainability. Can your relationship, can your collaboration survive if the immediate funding stopped for a period of time or didn't expand? Or if the government or entity that is helping fund this shifts a priority? Sometimes you see it in terms of, we should be working more with Africa. Africa. One big thing, Africa, right? Make sure you understand both sides of this, understand what are the resources that each side can put in, And where are there opportunities? And the last thing I would put in terms of this is to make sure, another issue we often see, is that each side, each partner understands the accessibility and opportunities and resources their partner has available to them. Assumptions are killers in this. Unspoken assumptions that since I have access to something, I assume you have access to something. Because my institution does this for me, I assume, or doesn't do this for me, I assume the same is true for yours. So one of the ways we at the U.S. Embassy try and overcome some of this is very simple pre-departure orientations, which is a very basic level of cultural understanding, which we do on, so you're going to go to America, what do you need to know about life in America so that you understand a little bit about what's going on around you. But I would strongly recommend that those cultural orientations, and in this instance meaning the institutional cultural orientation, happens at the very early part of it.
Thank you all very much. Very thoughtful examples and words of advice. In the last 3-4 years, I think it could be argued that a couple of the most important changes have been the global pandemic. You thought I was going to say Taylor Swift, but the global pandemic and then generative AI. So 2 big changes for universities, for people in general. I wonder if you can talk about how those 2 things might be reshaping the landscape of higher education as you see it and the potential for collaboration. Rachel, do you want to start?
Thank you so much. So these are absolutely game changers, and in some ways, they allow us to take stock of, again, what are challenges and what are opportunities. So I think when we look at the future of big data and the connectivity that is both an opportunity for research and the connectivity that allows global pandemics to become truly global, we realize that we are part of a global system that is shaped by structural inequality. And when we look at big data, for example, the biases that big data accumulates and aggregates and bring together is just a symptom of, or a symbol of, this global inequality that we all have a place in our system. And so that is to say that when we look at big data, what is missing is the first question that we need to ask ourselves. And I think here too, global collaborations are absolutely important. It comes back to the question of assumptions. What we don't know, we don't know. Sometimes our partners can help us to recognize what might be missing from the aggregation of big data. When we look at health research, genetic research, what types of populations do we have less information about in our medical records? In the United States, that is populations that have less access to health care. Their records are less known to us. Their participation in health studies are less available. And so big data has the potential to aggregate biases. But when we work together to understand what is missing, we have the potential to correct and adapt and to be truly transformative. So again, I think that the global pandemic, big data allows us to understand opportunities as well as challenges. The second factor that I think these 2 phenomenon really bring to light is the importance of authenticity. When we look at big data, the opportunity to create trolls and misinformation, disinformation in an instant, it requires us to rethink what is knowledge, what is information, and what is expertise. And here again, when these things are put into question by the ability to put out into the ether misinformation or disinformation with often the goal of obfuscating the truth and questioning science, we have an opportunity and again a necessity to rethink what are authentic and trusted sources of expertise. And here again is where relationships matter. Our ability to turn to our partners and disseminate information together makes us an even more trusted source of expertise and knowledge. So I think in this moment of uncertainty as we look towards the future, trust and authenticity and expertise come to play an even more important role as we try to educate publics and fight through that potential for misinformation, particularly around things like health. And so it offers us the opportunity to come back to our partnerships and together fight against some of those biases or missing information.
Let's see if this one works. It sounds like it does. I would say both the pandemic and big data provided anonymity. And anonymity can be wonderful sometimes if you're looking for the honest truth of some things. But I'm not sure that's what we got out of both of those things. Anonymity means whether it's trolls online, but in terms of the pandemic, I think what we really saw was an extraordinary divide deepen even wider between the haves and the have-nots. And by haves and have-nots, I mean those that had access to how do you continue to learn, how do you continue to communicate, how can you continue to connect with the outside world when the world has shut down. And that hiccup, except it's more than a hiccup when it was 2 years long or so, that absolute roadblock put in the path of so many people, I think is something that we are going to continue to feel for a generation, if not more, and is something that I encourage all of you, because government doesn't have the ability to get down to the same level that all of you do through your institutional collaborations to really understand what the impact of that is. Government is going to rely on big data to answer those questions. But what I always tell my staff and what we talk about at the U.S. Embassy is do a gut check on if what you hear from people, from individuals, we do our best work when we're talking to individual people or even a group of people. Compare that to what big data is telling you about the state of whatever it is. And if the anecdotes you hear, if the personal experiences you hear from 5, 10, 15, 20, 100 people over the course of a month run counter to what, quote, big data is telling you, that's where you're going to find the biases that are inherent in it, but that are very difficult to find and to be able to track down. So I think those are issues that, honestly, I don't think we yet know what the full impact is going to be for both of those.
So I have a little bit of a contrary view to what my colleagues have said. So in terms of COVID, I think one of the impacts or the effects of the pandemic actually has been that it had a very significant leveling effect in terms of the haves and the have-nots. I don't remember any other disease that was so merciless to anybody. In fact, if you think about it carefully, even people who are more, the more privileged people were more susceptible to COVID-19 than the less privileged, the poorer communities. Initially, we were afraid that Africa would be wiped out because of our weak health systems and bad or inadequate health care. But it turns out that it wasn't so bad on the continent, especially the poorest parts of the continent. Okay, so I think that what that did was actually to create a realization that we are in this world together. It is not every problem that you can protect yourself from with your wealth, and COVID showed that no matter how wealthy you were, if you were infected by COVID, you could die from it, no matter how much wealth you had. People, some of the richest people died from it, probably because of pre-existing conditions and all that. So that leveling effect, I think it has actually had an effect on the orientation of more developed countries towards global challenges, towards funding for infectious diseases, towards giving equitable distribution of resources for research. I've seen a significant shift just because of the way COVID demonstrated to us that nobody is safe unless everybody is safe. This started in China, and for a while people thought that it would remain in China, in a small community in China, but within months the whole world was shut down. No matter how rich you were, your private jets and all that didn't mean much in the era of COVID. Similarly with AI, what it has done is actually to democratize knowledge. That right now there are so many things that in the past would have been protected by property rights and all these things. But with this era of big data and artificial intelligence, nearly everything can be copied and improved within minutes. Okay, so I think that despite all the negative impact of these things, I think they also have a positive impact in terms of democratizing knowledge and access to health, and democratizing the impact of challenges, and bringing that realization that in this world we are in it together, and if we don't look out for each other, we are not safe.
I think you've all made good points in that capturing some of the benefits, particularly of generative AI, requires really understanding how it does impact people in different places, how it can be a tool for people to access unknown corners of the web where they might not have been able to access before in some cases, and in other cases real concerns about the kind of information people are accessing, how accurate it is, how we can still continue to have some kind of ownership over knowledge produced. So a lot of questions. We're not going to solve it today. If we had another couple hours, we could solve it. Let me ask one more question, and then we'll send the microphone out. But for all of you, we have a number of students and young people. Our faculty are probably also young, university leaders, but particularly the students. I wonder from your perspectives, what do you see in terms of the characteristics that are needed for global leadership today? What do you maybe have as advice for students who are growing up in the midst of all of these opportunities that you've identified, but also challenges? Maybe a few words.
Well, I think what is clear is that for young people, they need to prepare themselves to adapt, because things are changing so fast that whatever you are learning today may be useless in 2 years' time. So your ability to adapt and be nimble in applying your knowledge and your expertise is what would make you competitive going forward, because things change so fast these days that there's no way to guarantee that you will be competitive by mastering so many things right now. It's more about being adaptable and being able to make use of new information in different ways. And so I think that this is the orientation that young people need to have, that you need to arm yourself to be adaptable and to be nimble and not too dependent on any particular skill or talent or business or whatever. You have to always think that there's a possibility that next year this will not work anymore, because it's really possible that it will not work anymore.
That's pretty intimidating. So you have to know everything and be also able to adapt on a dime. A small challenge. Emma.
I would say challenge assumptions and seek out dissent. It's easy when you're young to challenge. I have 3 teenage boys. They challenge every assumption I have. I am wrong about everything. And sometimes I am. So it is easy for them and for many young people to challenge the assumptions of the older generation of their teachers, of their parents, of their grandparents, of their leaders, and to say, no, 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 you're stuck in the mud, I know what's coming up. So when you challenge assumptions, don't just challenge the assumptions that come naturally to you to challenge. Challenge your own assumptions. Challenge the assumptions of your peers. Challenge the assumptions of what somebody is telling you. It's just understood that it is that way, no matter what it is. And then seek out dissent. Even after you've challenged the assumption, you believe what you believe, you've done your research, you know what your values are, you know what it is you're aiming for, seek out those that disagree with you and understand their perspective. It is unlikely that you are 100% right and they are 100% wrong. So challenge assumptions and seek out dissent.
I also have 3 sons, and I tell them to challenge authority, but not mine.
Rachel. Absolutely. So I think to build on these great points, I want to just suggest that we value teamwork and the ability to work with people who are different than you, because often academia can privilege depth of knowledge, that we go narrow, that we really become experts in a particular field. But as we've just been discussing on this panel, the challenges today require a breadth of knowledge. They require a breadth of different perspectives, a breadth of different tools, and ability to apply those tools. And so the only way we can have both that kind of nimbleness and the breadth that we need to take on these big questions is to work together. But working together sounds nice. It can actually be quite difficult. We've been discussing some of the challenges to international cooperation. That's why so many of your professors assign you team projects as in your courses. And so learning to work with people who are different than you and have a different way of approaching it is a strength. And it goes along the idea of challenging assumptions, but learning to value what other types of skills your collaborators bring to the table. And this goes to suggest that when you're building teams, you look to build teams that are not just people like you, who have similar skills, but people who maybe have different skills. So if you're a visionary and a big thinker and like strategy, you might want to pair up with somebody who's really detail-oriented and who can get the pieces, all the I's dotted and all the T's crossed. And so building teams that allow for responses to this challenging world, I think, is a key factor to look forward.
Thank you, Rachel, and thanks to all of you. I think we have time for one round of questions from the audience, if there are some questions and comments. Maybe introduce yourself.
My name is Lungisani Zulu. I am Cornell Alumni 2011, and I am the president of the Law Association of Zambia and president of Savannah Law Network, a group of law firms across Africa trying to collaborate together to leverage off the opportunities presented by the African Continental Free Trade Area. I want to thank you, the panelists, for a very elaborate discussion on an important topic. I want to ask a question related to South-to-South collaborations. The Provost did allude to the fact that much more can be done to encourage South-to-South collaborations. It's an important topic and point because the absence of robust South-to-South collaboration robs Africa of a united voice on critical issues that perhaps could be addressed better together. I am coming from Zambia, and when I look at Zambia and Ghana, the challenges we face are quite very common. Yet, I can't come to Ghana unless I pay $150 visa, meaning there's a blockage to South collaboration. But the first point I would have expected is we are collaborating much more. the problem translates itself into a bigger one at political level. Very few times we see African governments sitting together to collaborate on points of mutual interest and present a unified position to North collaborators. We have seen in the recent past conferences that are arranged around Africa and America, China and Africa, or Russia and Africa. And in the one room, you have African leaders on one side who don't have a common approach to the problem, but they're addressing one key stakeholder who could, if we had sat down properly, help to unlock some of the challenges that we are facing as a continent. My question is, what can we do? What practical steps can be taken to encourage much more South-to-South collaborations? What should the North collaborators, for example, be doing to encourage us to also encourage our working together? How can the academia, this is a perfect good example of South and North collaborations, Cornell and University of Ghana. How can the academia take leadership in promoting South-to-South collaboration between University of Ghana and University of Zambia and Cornell at the same time? I thank you.
My name is Chris Gordon. About 20 years ago, I was Dean of International Programs. I listened to the presentations closely, but I found a word missing. I kept on hearing trust, trust, trust. But before you have trust, you need to have respect. And how you generate that respect is by performing at a certain standard. I'm hoping that Cornell will help us and we will help them to push that agenda of respect forward. That's looking back in the past. But looking forward, I was very interested to hear about the futures. We say our students should think outside the box. But my position is we need students who ask, what is a box? The young people that will be leaders in the future will be thinking about things that we cannot dream about. And I'm pleased to maybe the Provost will tell you in more detail that University of Ghana is very committed to creating a research lab on future scenarios, which cuts across all disciplines, because we need to imagine that future so that Africa can have a voice on the global stage. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Please, my name is Appiah Dankwa Prince, a level 300 student in programs with Cornell University. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. My name is Beatty Samuel, a level 100 student in reading biological science. From what who said, she was like, the students must involve themselves, or they have to be able to channel their student leadership outside the box so that we can help the activity of globalization to bring a positive impact to the various countries. And from something I've realized quite the time I came to the school, I can see that the opportunities available for students that can link us or bring us together so that we can all move hand in hand is not much exposed to everyone or every department. We mostly look at the sciences department to be the focus of the school, whilst the other departments such as the consumer science studies, they are affiliated to the weather and then the environment, and their activity can also contribute much to solving the problems of our increase in hot weather. So I think from what our Papa also said, my conclusion is the school should see it as a way. The school should have a forum that can bring various departments together so that we can share ideas, unlike looking down on some candidates, seeing them as less privileged or their cause not recognized or not being important. So thank you very much.
My name is Faustina Boachi. I'm an alumni of Cornell. And we are talking about collaboration, partnerships. We are talking about trust, South-South cooperation, North-South cooperation and all that. But you realize that in the North-South cooperation, there are so many strings attached. If you do not support LGBTQ or you are religiously biased, or so many strings. How can we eliminate all these things? When I was in Cornell, I realized that the Dalai Lama came and he was welcome. A king came, he was welcome. Everybody is welcome at Cornell. I don't know whether things have changed, and now there are so many strings, even academically. I mean, between universities and all that, there could be so many strings that the South cannot fulfill. How can we eliminate those things? Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think we probably need to turn back to the panel. I'm so sorry. But we will have time after the panel for mingling and for conversation. So I hope that you'll ask your questions to each other, but also to the panelists as we conclude. Why don't we take maybe a minute for each of you just to respond to the questions that you can and to provide some closing remarks. Those were good questions. They were broad questions. So why don't we start with you, Vice-Chancellor?
All right. Thank you for all those questions and comments. The question about South-South collaboration. I think the biggest challenge is a lack of political leadership. You mentioned it yourself, that it's easier for me to go to London than for me to go to Zambia or even to go to Cameroon. Okay? You cannot have effective South-South collaborations when we can't get to each other. When I try to transfer money to Mali, it takes 6 months back and forth bureaucracy. I can transfer money to the US in seconds. Okay? So if we don't break down these barriers, the effort to promote South-South collaboration would never bear fruit. I mean, we have tried in all the consortia I've worked in, we've always tried to prioritize collaborations among African partners. But it's so challenging. It takes a lot of endurance to continue to try to work amongst yourselves in Africa. Now, one of the things we can do as academics is to provide opportunities for students to work together. And I think if we have more collaborations between African universities where we allow our students to, come or, move between the universities. Those partnerships that they build with their colleagues whilst they are students, those form the foundation of future South-South collaborations. Many of us trained overseas. We know more people in the US and the UK than we know in Burkina Faso and Senegal, who do the type of work we do, because we trained somewhere else and we worked with so many people there. If we let our students sit together and work together whilst they are students, those form the foundations for future South-South collaborations. Respect. Prof. Gordon, I actually mentioned respect. When I told my story about the field collaboration, I said that I told the person that what I need is respect. I don't need giveaways and gifts. The fact that you cannot trust me with a sub-award for me to manage the resources and report to you, that is a lack of respect, and that's the end of the collaboration. So respect is really important. I agree with you on that. Student engagement, somebody made the suggestion that we should provide fora for students to engage. I recognize that you are a fresh student, so I like your enthusiasm to engage. Unfortunately, you've come at a time where your senior colleagues are home. But when everybody is back in school, there are many opportunities for you to engage. The SRC president is here. They organize so many events and fora these days, and you would get the opportunity to engage with students from across disciplines. So be rest assured that your engagement would come. Thank you.
So again, those were big, large questions, not all of which are things that are easily addressed from my seat. But I will pick and choose among them. I'll start with the issue of respect, because it's one that I feel keenly and could feel the passion in your voice, and also a lot of agreement in the room when you spoke about this. And it's something we see every day in our relationships from government to people to people. One thing I would not argue but suggest is that when people don't know each other, it is hard to start with respect. It can be absolutely a sort of, I will approach you with the assumption of respect, right? Not approach with an assumption of mistrust or disrespect. But I would say one of these things, when we go back to the logistics of collaboration, start small. Start small and build the trust there. And if the respect does not come immediately after a small and you know each other, then don't take that next step. But start small when you don't know each other to make sure it comes. On the issue of student engagement, I will give an unabashed plug for the American Centers. So the United States Embassy runs 3 American spaces or American centers in Ghana, 1 in Kumasi, and 2 in Accra, 1 at the US Embassy. And there you have free access to the internet, you have free access to research databases, and you have access to various skills building and other programs. Please check it out, look it out online. And it is a place that if you don't always have access to online, reliable places to be able to engage outside of your immediate face-to-face, please use the American spaces that are completely free of charge and open to all to come. On the last question of so many strings attached to so many things, I'm not sure that I agree with that premise. Anybody that is funding anything has the right to say what it is. I can speak for the United States government in that our exchange programs are specifically not limited to one group, one set of beliefs, or one anything. In fact, it is written into almost every exchange program that what we are seeking is a diversity of beliefs, a diversity of people, a diversity of backgrounds for those precisely to learn from each other.
So I want to begin with the question of the South-South collaborations and return to one of the first points that I made in opening remarks about our friends being your friends and your friends being our friends. And I think that transnational collaboration, multilateral collaboration, is actually one productive pathway towards more opportunity for South-South collaboration as a part of global networks. And I think the Global Hubs partnerships that are developing at Cornell University are an exciting opportunity or model for this kind of collaboration. And I know when the University of Ghana delegation came to Cornell just a few years ago with Dean Eric of International and Barbara Blankson, that part of the excitement, of course, was furthering our mutually beneficial partnership, but part of the excitement of participating in that Global Hubs network meeting was to interact with colleagues, the rest of our Global Hubs partners, who then have relationships that don't necessarily involve Cornell, but they may involve Cornell in mutually productive ways. So University of Zambia was there, along with colleagues in India and in Thailand and Ecuador and Mexico. And so it really was an exciting opportunity. I think our colleagues from around the world enjoyed talking to each other as much as they enjoyed talking with us, and that was absolutely part of the structure and the goal of thinking about how those kinds of relationships can continue. And then on the great question about what kinds of opportunities there are for students, I would say as we look forward in our partnership with University of Ghana, it is evident that research excellence is of interest to everyone. And there are important ways in which that can translate into student opportunities for applied research integration. So whether students are a part of a lab that includes members of Cornell University and University of Ghana, that's one way to have internationalization at home. But there are other ways that we're looking to build out as well in terms of co-teaching of courses, whether that is flip-flopping classrooms, and sometimes they're taught virtually by us in Ithaca, New York, and sometimes taught virtually by our colleagues here in Accra. And opportunities for our students to intern together in community organizations. So that bringing together as well as the mobility aspect is, I think, something that is starting and develops over time with respect and trust and institutional infrastructure that we hope to build out in the future. Thank you.
Thank you very much to the panelists. I would add just a comment on the North-South, South-South partnerships. I think there are real differences between Cornell University and the University of Ghana, between the United States and Ghana itself. But the idea of South-South or North-South might be one of those boxes that an audience member suggested we have to unsee, because it might not be the most relevant way of categorizing the differences between the institutions or the countries. So we have represented here on the stage various networks that people are part of. So part of a crop science and plant breeding network that spans many different continents and different generations. Part of a government bureaucracy, sorry, you said it, that carries its own networks. And part of an Institute of African Studies approach to thinking about democracy and questions of governance. Everybody in the audience has networks. The global hubs that Rachel Riedl just mentioned is a network of networks. So it's about bringing the connections that we all have, seeing where the points of connection are, and recognizing that those points of difference are where we will have some of the greatest reasons to collaborate. Some of the greatest strength will come out of deciding, well, you bring an emphasis in computer science, but we have an emphasis in an area of urban and regional planning that is particularly good at thinking about problems of pollution and rapid development. So there will be ways of collaborating precisely around those differences that I think are important. And I look forward to seeing how those develop. So let me just take a moment to say thank you very much to our panelists for your wonderful contributions, and thank you to the audience for sitting through the long panel.
You will agree with me that our moderator was very amazing, and so were our panelists. Let's appreciate them as they move back to their seats. We'll continue to appreciate them as they move back to their seats. Thanks so much for the insightful panel discussion. You've really educated us. I have a lot of take-homes, and let me share a few pointers with you. I learned that we need to add value to collaborations. We also have to identify the challenges and opportunities associated with partnerships and see how we deal with them. There's also the need for sustainability of collaborations, and then we need to be adaptable. You also heard the data given by our representative from the US Embassy. She mentioned that Ghana is number 23 in the world in sending undergraduate students to the US, and is 14 in the world in sending graduate students to the US. But she also gave a word of advice that when we go for further studies, we should remember home and come back to help with development. Let's appreciate our panelists as well as our moderator once more. It is now my duty to invite our chairperson, Professor Nanaba Appiah Amfo, to deliver her closing remarks. Please let's welcome our chairperson.
Good evening once again. After that very interesting panel discussion and the pointers from our moderator, I was wondering whether there was anything else for me to say as we bring our program to a close. But I would say that it's been a fruitful evening and an interesting one as we looked at the future of collaboration, global higher education, and making a difference at home and abroad. I don't think that there's anyone in this room who has a doubt that collaborations are not useful. We are here this evening because of collaborations, because of sustained collaborations that these two institutions have nurtured over several years, University of Ghana and Cornell University. So right here we have a living example of the benefits of collaborations. And as we bring this evening session to a close, just to reiterate and highlight a few of the points which our panelists and our speakers this evening put across. If you like, some lessons or some take-homes. One of the first points I noted was that collaborations are sustained and they tend to be more useful when they are bottom-up rather than top-down, which I totally agree with. I remember I was once at a meeting, the vice-chancellors, university presidents, and so on, and there was a colleague who had MOUs prepared, ready, and grabbing vice-chancellors and presidents here and there to sign MOUs. He approached me and I said, well, I'm not just interested in having a piece of paper signed. I have lots of these at my university. What I'm looking at for real partnerships, and often these happen when you have people at the unit levels who can champion these collaborations. Of course, at the level of the institution, our responsibility is to create the enabling ambience that will help sustain these partnerships. Having the right structures where people who collaborate across institutions will feel comfortable that there's the needed, well, it could be a bureaucracy, but an efficient one that supports fruitful collaborations. There has to be the clarity of contributions and expectations, and critically, there has to be equity in design of programs and projects. Some of the collaborations that run into challenges are programs that, everything is done, and then when at the last minute they remember that we need to get an African collaborator for this to work, you are plucked and put in there. So right from the beginning, there isn't a good fit because you haven't been part of the conceptualization and the development of the program. And so that is really important, and we cannot overemphasize the mutual respect and trust being key ingredients for sustained relationships. We do acknowledge that higher education in itself is a global endeavor, and for us to keep doing the things that we need to do better, we need to collaborate. We can't do things on our own, and we have had very vivid examples this evening from our panelists, which I would not like to repeat. But really, what is a future that we anticipate? Well, I anticipate that we will continue to have collaborations into the future. We've seen this evening a good example of collaboration between two institutions of higher learning. You can call it a north-south collaboration or whatever you choose to call it, which has worked very well. But I also like to remind us that there are other kinds of collaborations. Into the President, through you, I think that the AU needs to do a lot more in this regard to facilitate collaboration on the continent. It shouldn't be too difficult for us to move around the continent. Currently, that is not the case, and we need the AU to do more. We also need to do more of other kinds of collaborations between higher education institutions and industry, collaboration between higher education institutes and civil society groups, a combination of all of these, even our communities, the communities that we live and work in, bringing on board the indigenous systems that we find in these communities. I think that we need to spread out and nurture all of these kinds of collaboration to get us to the future that we anticipate, the future that we want. And lastly, I would like to say that in spite of everything, the Cornell UG collaboration has been an exemplary one that we can all learn from, one that even government and states can learn from and benefit from, to have the understanding that yes, we may have our differences, we may have our cultural nuances, but indeed, when we set our minds to doing things and we focus on our strengths, we focus on the things that we can do together, we focus on our complementarity, we can do a lot more, and we can make the world a better place, and we will see the future that we anticipate. So on that note, I would like to also express my appreciation to all the speakers that we have had here this evening, the representative of the President, the Provost, our very able moderator, and our panel members who have given us such insights this evening. The conversation has not ended. It will continue as we leave this place, but also we are continuing tomorrow. And so please make time to pass by. I think it's the ESA Conference Center. We will continue the conversations over there as we continue to sustain this UG Cornell collaborations and use that even as a springboard for other fruitful collaborations. So thank you and do have a good evening.
Thank you as well, Madam Vice-Chancellor and Chair. We are very appreciative. Yes, we've come to the end of the program. I have a couple of announcements. First of all, I would like to extend appreciation to all of you. You've all done well, both those who joined us virtually and those who are in person. You've done really, really well, and I want you to give yourselves a round of applause. And please permit me to make special mention of the Political Science Department, Dr. Asa Asante and Mr. Philip Jemfi, as well as the SRC and GRASAG, who helped us to get students here into the hall. You may be aware that our continuing students are on holidays. We only have level 100s and a few graduate students, but they helped us to mobilize them to be witnesses of this very important meeting. We are very grateful to you all. I can see some Cornell alumni among us. Can you give us a wave? Thank you so much for joining us, and we hope to see you tomorrow at ISE Conference Facility. The chairperson made mention of the panels that will go on there. We have two panels going on there, one on public health and policy, and the other on transdisciplinary approaches to climate change and adaptation, starting at 2 p.m. at the ISE Conference Facility. We invite you all to join us for these panel discussions. Now, a word on refreshments. We have refreshments after here. I invited guests, the alumni, and senior members will take refreshments on the left side of the hall, which we call the north wing of the hall. You see that there's a setup there, so we'll all go there for refreshments. And students will take refreshments at the forecourt of the hall, which is the AA Kwapong Quadrangle. We invite you, students, to join us, to converge there for refreshments. But we'll do refreshments after a few group photographs in front of the hall. At this point, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, please let's rise for the university anthem. You'll find the lyrics on the inside back cover and also on the screens. Thank you very much. Please let's remain standing for the recession. The dignitaries on the front row will take the lead, and then the rest of us will join row by row. Thank you very much.